Hi all. Today we are going to take a topic on accounting for overhead from cost accounting. First of all, the term overhead. Overhead means it is the total of all indirect costs such as indirect material, indirect wages, indirect expenses is commonly known as overhead. And we can say if any indirect cost which is over and above the prime cost is also known as overheads, and it's also called a burden, on cost and supplementary cost. Considering the definition, according to CIMA England, overhead is the aggregate of indirect materials, indirect wages and indirect expenses is called overhead. And another topic is features of overheads. There are 5 features regarding the topic overheads. First one, they are indirect cost. The all indirect costs relating to materials, expenses, wages, etc. are commonly known as overheads. And it's a common cost. Then third one is it includes both fixed and variable cost. Fixed cost means it is the cost which is fixed irrespective of the increase or decrease of this production or sales. Variable expenses means which is varied on the basis of the production activities. And fourth one is it consists of both production and non-production expenses. Then last one is it consists of both cash and book expenses. So these are the main features of overheads. And on the basis of classification, the overheads are mainly classified into 3 categories. They are, the first one is on the basis of function, another one is on the basis of element, and the last one is on the basis of behavior. First one is functional classification. Under this method, overhead costs are classified according to the main functions of the organization, and the main classifications regarding the functions are: first one is production overhead, then administration overhead, third one is selling overhead, and finally distribution overhead. These 4 classifications are mainly included in functional basis. First one is production overhead. Production overhead means all the overhead or all the indirect expenditure incurred in connection with the production activity. It is also known as factory overhead or manufacturing overhead or work overhead. Second one is administration overhead. Administration overhead means all the indirect expenses are in connection with the direction, control and administration of an organization, which is mainly related to the office activities or administrative activities of the organization. These overheads are also known as office overhead or general overhead. The main examples for administrative overheads are: the first one is office lighting, then printing and stationery, then salaries for office staff, etc. Third one is selling overhead. Selling overhead means it is the overhead incurred for creating and maintaining demand for the product. It is the indirect cost associated with the marketing and selling activities of the organization. The best examples for selling overheads are salesman commission, advertising expenses, etc. are common in this category. And the last one is distribution overhead. Distribution overhead is mainly incurred due to the activities related to the distribution, or marketing of the product. The main examples for distribution overheads are carriage outward, pack expenses, delivery van expenses, etc. are come under this category. And second classification is element-wise classification. On the basis of element, the overheads are mainly classified into 3 categories. The first one is indirect material, second one is indirect wages, and the last one is indirect expenses. The first one, indirect material. Indirect materials are the materials which cannot be allocated directly to the production but can be apportioned or absorbed by the cost centers or cost units. Such materials do not form the finished product, for example, fuel, oil, etc. And second one is indirect wages. Wages which cannot be allocated but can be apportioned and absorbed by the cost center or cost unit is known as indirect wages. The best example is sleeper salary is an example for indirect wages. And third one is indirect expenses. Expenses which cannot be allocated but can be apportioned and absorbed by the cost center or cost unit, which are not directly involved in the production process but indirectly they are affected to the production. The best example for indirect expenses are rental, insurance, welfare expenses, lighting and heating, etc. And the last classification is on the basis of behavior. On the basis of behavior, the indirect costs are classified into three categories: fixed overhead, variable overhead, and the last one is semi-variable overhead. First one is fixed overhead. Fixed overhead means the cost which remain fixed in total irrespective of the increase or decrease in the production or sales is called fixed overhead. The best example for fixed overhead is factory rent is the best example for fixed overhead. And second one is variable overhead. Variable overhead means it varies in total in direct proportion to volume of output is called variable overhead. Variable cost per unit remain constant with changes in production. If the production process is changed, the variable cost is always changed. Okay, so it mainly depends upon the production process. If the production process, if any changes is incurred in the production process, that change must be reflected in the variable overhead also. Okay, and the best example is the price of indirect materials, indirect wages, etc. Then the last one is semi-variable or semi-fixed overhead. The cost which is partly constant and partly affected by the fluctuation in the level of activity is called semi-variable overhead. Okay. And the best example for semi-variable overhead is telephone expenses or telephone charges. That's all regarding the classifications of overheads. Thank you.